I'm Jeff Bullock. I do videos explaining different concepts that you might hear from social media. And one of these concepts is whether or not debt can be good or bad, or if it's something that you really need to have. So I wanted to really dive into this and explain the pros and the cons of debt and um, when you should have debt and when you shouldn't have debt. So some of the things that you might have heard is that you need to have debt because it takes risk to get ahead in life. Or you might have heard that the more that you might want debt because the more that you pay for a school, the better your education. Or maybe you want to have debt because you have to have debt in order to afford a normal life. You can't do that without debt. Or you might need debt because you need to build credit for future purchases. Or you need debt because you want to have some fun, right? So these are all things that you might hear about debt. And I want to kind of take some of these and explain them. So the first one that I have here is, yeah, you need debt in order to get ahead in life. And that's just not true. Um, you can use debt to, I kind of say debt is kind of like a rocket, right? You place it in one direction, and if you're off just by a little bit, that rocket is not going to go the way that you want it to. But if you have it just right, you might be able to use that debt um, to really expedite your growth, right? And that's what debt can do, but you never really know. You might think that you're right on par, and then that rocket takes off and it goes all haywire, right? And so there is a lot of risk when you're taking on debt. The next one is you need to pay for that better education. Well, again, that's not necessarily true. When you're getting a job, they might ask you if you have different degrees, but do they really care where you got that degree from? And that's becoming less and less apparent. Again, you have to have debt to afford normal life. Well, if you're living in a budget, if you're willing to make some sacrifices, that really is not the case. You really could move, change locations where you live, um, do different activities, fun activities, and you can just figure out how to live in a budget, change your job, different things that you can do so that you can live without taking on credit card debt. Honestly, taking on credit card, there's going to be a time when that's going to catch up to you. So if your normal life needs a credit card, that's going to catch up to you quick. Needing a credit, needing to build your credit score, that is true. Credit scores are important, but even with very little work on a credit score, you can have a good credit score, right? If you overextend and you over try and work on your credit, you might end up actually hurting your credit, right? If you just do basic, have a credit card, use it every once in a while, once a week or once a month, pay it off, that really is going to help your credit score more than always swiping that card. And then just wanting to have some fun, you can have fun on a budget. And so it doesn't necessarily, you don't need to take out debt to have fun. And if you feel like you want to go out and do something that's fun, there's several things that you can do. So all of those things being said, do you need debt? No. Is there times when you should have debt? And so let's jump into this a little bit more. Really, the thing about debt is there are goods and bads with that. Like I said, you can really expedite wherever you're at, right? If you're struggling with finances and you get a hold of debt, it's going to make that struggle even worse. If you're good with finances, you've got some investments, you know how to manage it, it can make that better, right? You can have more to manage. Either way, there are goods and there are bads. I wouldn't necessarily say to everybody that you need to always go without debt. Now, there are times then it is important to avoid debt totally, and we'll explain that a little bit more, but there are times when debt can be used as a tool, and let's dive into that. So debt can be used as a tool, and really it's a tool so that, like I was saying, if you can manage your finances in a way that you can now utilize uh, a little bit more money, more finances, so you can expedite the growth that you already have, right? I would also say, you know, you can step into that education that you might not have been able to afford, right? Or you can step into purchases, assets, assets that you'll be able to uh, have the benefit from and pay down slowly, right? So a house, you know, debt can be a tool for buying a house. That can be a tool for education. That can be a tool for a short time on large purchases like a car. But I wouldn't really go into other things other than, um, you know, improving yourself and having assets. Those are things that worst case scenario you really can turn around and sell them, and hopefully you're not upside down on them and therefore can reap the benefit of just paying that debt off again. So that would be my focus when getting debt, is that there is an exit strategy, right? That means you're not doing any 0% down or 3% down. You're doing a large down payment so that the wear and tear on a house or a car, it's already, you know, taken up by that down payment, and so you would not easily become upside down any of that debt. So that's kind of the focus when using debt as a tool. Now, the biggest thing that I see with debt is that people want to utilize this because they think that they have the greatest idea and they really want to expedite growth inside their business, or they you know, they just want to utilize this idea that they have. What they don't understand, um, that there is this negative side of debt. Sometimes your ideas don't turn out the way that you think they will turn out, and that doesn't come to fruition, and you end up having that debt burden that you really can't manage. And you might think, well, I could just go bankrupt. It's really not that easy, especially mentally. There's a lot of drain mentally when you're in that situation that I would really highly recommend avoiding at all costs, right? It's a lot more tasking mentally than most people would think. You know, when you're first thinking about, oh, I'll get debt, you can think, oh, it shouldn't be a big deal if everything goes haywire, or that will never happen. But it does happen. Not everything turns out the way we want it to. So we want to avoid this as much as possible. This is the whole idea of, it's great to grow as fast as you want, as you can, but you have to have it within reason, because you have to think about your happiness, your joy, your mental health at the same time. It's not all about the money. You have to also tie that with your mental health, with the happiness of your lifestyle. Sometimes it's okay to grow a little slower so that your mental health can be in the right place, and so that your happiness is not sacrificed for that money, you know, that the money that you're hoping to get. One of the things about growing using debt, especially if you're starting off, the debt can kind of give you this false sense of success. So you have this feeling that you're making so much money. In reality, it's the debt that uh, is providing you with that money, right? It's those loans that are providing you with that money. So it can become really challenging to know if you are being successful in your business, or if it is just the loans, the credit cards that are making you feel successful. And once when that hits you, once when you realize, I have all these debts that are coming due, now you have to say, what did I do wrong? Was this a business plan problem? Or was it a price problem? Now you're scrambling to try and figure out, you thought you were profitable the whole time, but it turns out you weren't. So you're scrambling to figure out why you weren't profitable at the time. It's better to figure out that all that out when you're small and you're struggling, but it's just little tiny bills that you're worried about, rather than blowing it up, having so much money, having so much growth, and not really knowing that you can manage it without debt, right? Because you're going to run out of that debt. The banks will call and they'll say that they want that money back, and you'll need to be able to make that profit on your own at some point. And that's really important. So it's great to start off without that debt and grow it on your own, and know that you can do it, and then get debt as needed after that. So when should you totally avoid debt? And I would say the biggest thing, and you hear this all the time, you've got Dave Ramsey says totally avoid debt. I would say that there really is something to be said about that, especially if you have a hard time controlling your finances. This is what I usually tell people is, if you cannot pay your credit card on time, say you miss it once, cut the credit card, right? If you cannot have that manage your finances correctly, it's better just to go without the credit card. Have the debit cards, figure things out without the debt if you cannot manage your finances, right? Again, if you're a small growing company, you're trying to figure things out, you're not sure if you can make it without, debt and financial help, go without the debt. It is better to do without the debt than to have the debt and figure it out later, right? So if you're one that goes out and you shop a lot, or if you're starting your business and you're wanting to grow super fast, try and do it without the debt. That is going to be your best, right? If you can manage your finances, or if your business, your business is profitable, it's been profitable for a few years, that's a time when you can now utilize the debt. You can take advantage of opportunities, and have the debt as a tool. But again, I would still use that for assets. I just use it as a tool and not much more than that. Now, one of the things I see with a lot of people who have debt is it's kind of a revolving door, just continue to grow their debt. And I would say that the best thing to do with debt is to always have a goal for paying that off, right? The debt should not be your friend forever. You eventually want to get to the point where you can do without the debt, right? That really should be your goal with any debt, is that you pay it off as soon as possible. With any debt, the person that makes the money is the banker. They're making the interest off of it, and they're loving it. On your end, you're losing that money. You are paying that money off. You're paying that money out. And the more you have the debt, the longer you have the debt, the more you're going to be paying that out. So the goal should be to pay it off as quickly as possible. Make a plan to pay it off as quickly as possible. Be able to live within your means and pay that down. That way, once when the debt is paid off, all of that extra that you were paying towards the debt goes directly to you, and you don't even have to worry about it. You can save up for the next best thing. So really, I would say the best thing is to not see debt as a continuous revolving tool, but a thing to just get once, paid off as quickly as possible. And that is my suggestion with debt, and that's what I would say is my advice. If you like this video, like and subscribe. I'll be making one of these videos once a week, And so you can follow me for more and put some notifications on so you can see what I have coming up next. Thank you.